Hey everybody, this is Chad with Thriving Canine. I'm continuing my series on behavior modification for dogs. Some of this stuff works on all animals, including humans, okay? But we're going to talk today about operant conditioning. First, before I get into all the terminology of it and the details of it, because we could really geek out on this. And you don't have to geek out to train dogs, but if you're going to get into it, this language is going to come up. You're going to see it on threads if you're getting into dog training threads on Facebook or what have you. So just so everybody has a grip on it. And sometimes just wrapping your head around this does make you look at things differently and may help you with some of your situations or to realize that you're not providing the right kind of consequences or what have you. Okay, but that consequences is the main word. So compared to what's called classical conditioning, so classical conditioning is often called Pavlovian conditioning. That has to do with Pavlov. If you guys remember from like high school psychology class or whatnot, Pavlov was a guy, he would ring the bell and then the food would drop into the bowl for the dogs and then the dogs would start to salivate just from the sound of the bell. So what's important about that is that has to do with a conditioning of an involuntary response. So the dogs don't choose to salivate, it just happened. And there's no reason for them to naturally salivate from a bell. A bell is a neutral stimulus until it starts being paired with the food enough times, and next thing you know, the bell makes the dog salivate. But the important thing is they're not choosing to salivate. So that's classical conditioning. What that has to do with creating associations, okay? But operant conditioning is more like dog training. Like if you sit, you get a cookie. So then the dog chooses to sit to get a cookie, right? Or things of that nature. So just think operant conditioning has to do with the operations of training a dog. And a dog is making choices to behave in certain ways to achieve or avoid consequences. That's a really simplified nutshell version, okay? But I just want you to understand that. Classical conditioning is the Pavlov thing. It's creating an association. The dog doesn't necessarily choose to feel a certain way, but they've been conditioned to feel a certain way about a certain thing, okay? And all of this, the word conditioning, by the way, means it's not something that just happens naturally. It has to be conditioned. A dog smells food, they naturally will salivate and go, food, and want to eat it. But saying good dog and having a dog wag their tail is a conditioned response. Saying that while loving on the dog and giving treats to the dog and whatnot has now become conditioned, and now the dog feels good when they hear a person say good dog. That's classical conditioning. So operant conditioning so that's pretty simple. Just positive and negative consequences or positive and negative associations, it creates a biological response or just an involuntary response. Operant conditioning is about choices, and there's the 4 quadrants of operant conditioning and 4 terms that you're going to hear. So I'm going to give you these right now. You can look at this if you want. You could take a screenshot or take a note of this really quick, but hopefully you guys can see that okay. Positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, negative punishment. Okay? So if you need to go back to take a screenshot of that or what have you. We're gonna geek out here. It's gonna get a little complicated, so bear with me. Hunker down, get yourself a cup of coffee, a pen and paper.